I really need subscribers to continue doing this for you guys. And with subscribers and likes and comments, all those things really help me out. And if you get anything from watching me do these videos, I would really appreciate it. You're probably going to see my head as I go across to get these shields, which are really great. I don't know if you ever used them before, but as you see here, if I want to get a really beautiful hard edge, you could use these for that. No other medium can get hard edges like that, which is great. As you can see, little by little, it's getting darker. I'm not in any rush. There's time. With India ink, since it is transparent, with India ink, it is transparent, so you basically will get darker as you add more layers. So that's why you want to take your time. It's easy to get darker, but it's almost impossible to get lighter. And remind you that this is just an underpainting. This is sort of the planning stage for the color. And I'll answer all questions. I really can't see the YouTube window. I have a new computer, and I have to get a video card that enables me to have my second monitor. I have a monitor just sitting here, but the computer only came with a video card which has one input, which next Wednesday, when I do my live, it's going to be weekly, guys, every Wednesday at 9, unless you guys have any better ideas what would work better for you guys, let me know. But every week I'll do it, and next week I should have my new video card and the second monitor, so I'll be able to, look at your comments as I'm painting. So I'll just ramble on till then. Now you'll probably see right here I have my reference, and see how I can zoom in and get beautiful detail, which really makes your life easy. I want to hear what you guys use. You guys use a computer monitor or iPhone for your reference? If not, your photos, and let me know why. What's some of the advantages to the way you do it, or have you not done it yet on the computer? So the airbrush I'm using is the Iwata CMC-C Plus. It's actually it was my second airbrush. The first one was the Highline, which I really loved. But once I went ahead and started painting with this custom micron, they call it, oh my God, especially when you're using something like ink, because it's basically made for very thin paint. When you start getting thicker, like in the later layers of color, it does get a little weird. It clogs a lot, it's temperamental, and just not as fun. So when I'm going into color, and I'll start to get thicker with the paints, then I would probably start using a Eclipse, also made by Iwata, but it has a larger nozzle, and It's built much more sturdy and a lot less temperamental. And believe me, when you're doing thicker paints, you'll give up some of the detail that you have with this custom micron for the ease of use with the Eclipse. I think this Iwata has a 0.18 needle, and that's very thin. That's how you can get like really almost hair-like precision. But the Iwata, I believe the one I have, the Iwata Eclipse, is a, well, that's my compressor, a 0.35, I think. You still, you know, as you get better with the airbrush, you still can get that precision and control. A friend of mine, David Morton, who was my first airbrush teacher, he always said, and I agree, it's not so much what an airbrush can get as far as precision, it's whether or not you have the ability to sketch with the airbrush, and that comes with time. So that was very wise. So got to give it to Mr. David Morton there, a little plug as a very good airbrush teacher. Good guy too. So if you get a chance, check out his work. I'm sure you can find it on the internet. I think it's airbrushteacher.com. So anyway, so going back to this portrait here. So like I said, I'm just not in a rush. I am just going to very slowly apply the layers, thinking about what I'm going to do in the future. What do I have planned for this piece? How can I best prepare for the layers of color? And actually I did a pastel of this painting, and my Facebook friends, you can actually go into my pictures and see that step by step of the pastel. Right now I'm doing a series of videos on YouTube with this. You know, I talk a little more in depth and I share some more of the techniques, and it's really good for those who don't get a chance to see this. It's very good to see my videos as well. I also go much deeper into the supplies that I use, and in a description I'm able to put links for you know, to purchase them with Amazon. So if you are going to purchase some of the products, that's probably the best way, easiest. And, okay. So as you see, I can move around. I have dexterity with my reference, and I can get really tight and really loose. You don't have too much problem with tip dry with ink as you would with let's say using acrylics. So I really want to know what acrylics do you use in the painting steps. I personally really like golden fluid acrylics. I think the reason being is that I use these acrylics when I used to paint in acrylic back in the early 2000s. Probably for about a year I painted solely in acrylic, and I just like what they do. I like how they are very into the chemistry of acrylics, the emulsion, the how they can actually make acrylic do things that normally it couldn't do. Have you ever worked with their open line of acrylics? Which is really great because a lot of people who know about acrylics, the problem is that it dries so darn quick. And I know that is a problem, but they have this open line, and it really slows down the drying time. It might be glycerin in it, because I remember when I used to just paint with regular acrylics, I learned from a book that if you add glycerin to it, it actually slows down the drying time. Yeah, that was in the early days of acrylic. It was almost impossible. But basically, Golden makes these fluid acrylics, which are, maybe the consistency of milk, and then, or maybe a little bit thicker. And then I'm able to thin them out with this airbrush medium that they have, which is really fantastic. I really love it. So let's say if I bought a 1 ounce thing of fluid acrylics. Let's see if I can find it. Here would be an example of a 1 ounce fluid acrylics of, let's say, bone black, right? So if I take this and I go ahead and cut it with the airbrush medium, I'm able to get 2 ounces for the price of 1 ounce. They also have this other line, which I do get some of them from time to time. It's the Golden, let me see. Oh, it's over here. So the Golden Open, no, that's not open, high flow acrylics, which is made with airbrush in mind. It's very thin, and it's perfect right out of the bottle, but I still like to mix the airbrush medium with it, because I like my paint a little bit thinner. I like building up as opposed to one shot. Since I'm a trained pastel and oil painter, I like working in glazes. It's more control instead of trying to nail that color right away. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a big fan of hit and miss, so if I'm able to go in glazes, I can adjust the colors as I go along. Anyway, that's how the old masters worked. Guys like Titian would use a lot of glazes. Vermeer, I'm sure Vermeer didn't nail the color right away. So he's able, much like the way I'm doing this airbrush underpainting, that's how I'm pretty much going to work in color. Just very light, have the ability to make changes, don't go too dark. It's harder to make a mistake as you're going slow than if you're like a house on fire, like you're in a rush. There's no rush. I don't have deadlines. Anyone who commissioned me will tell you I don't like tight deadlines. I usually don't take commissions. If you need it fast, you need to get someone else to do it, because I don't enjoy that. And plus it hurts to work. So if it hurts to work, why have me do it in the first place? It's all about the quality. So yeah, so why don't you guys comment so I can later look at what paints do you use and why, and have you used the Golden, and if you did, what do you think about it? Are you a raving fan? Do you have reservations? Always would really appreciate your thoughts. I learn more from you guys than anywhere else. So one of the best advice I ever had from Airbrush was from Cass Fuller, which is an amazing airbrush artist, muralist, just all around very good painter. When I first had gotten my airbrushes, I was like, I'm just having a hard time. What's the best way to get a handle on mixing, the fluid paints? And he just said, play with the colors, play with the different paints, the mediums. That has made all the difference. I tell that to my students today, And today I do that all the time. Sometimes I'll just sit and just play with the paints and, screw around. Because that's where you really learn. And experiment. If you don't experiment, you're going to repeat yourself. And I don't like to repeat myself. I don't want my work last year to look like my work this year. Of course, sometimes it might, and that's a shame, but I try to grow. I try to evolve as a painter. You have to. You're not in a corporate environment. You can do whatever the heck you want. You don't have someone telling you, do it this way or that way. You're the boss. That's a good feeling. It really is. And exercise that freedom. You're a painter. You're an artist. It's good to have teachers. I even tell my students, it's good to learn from me, but it's better to do it your own way when you're outside of my studio. I don't want you to get a student to get expressive while I'm teaching them. That's not good. When you have me as a teacher, do it my way. When you leave the studio and doing your own work, it's all you. You don't have to. There's no loyalty. I don't feel that you should feel loyal to a teacher. But funny enough, I did feel very guilty when I left, like, the academy. I studied with guys like Erwin Greenberg and Harvey Dinnerstein, and there were times when I was in this early morning painting class in high school, Max Ginsberg used to paint in front of me, and that was just amazing just to watch him. He blew my mind. Same thing with Greenberg. These guys instilled in me the beauty of realism, but not to the point where you're copying, but you're saying something. You have an idea, and throughout the painting you're working on that idea. It's not about reproducing. It's not about just doing exactly what you see. We have cameras that do a better job of it. What you need to do is talk about how you feel about the subject, whatever you're painting, whether it's conceptual or it's about an individual. That's what your painting should be about. And I think if you're consciously thinking about that when you're working, it'll come through. It does. It's almost like you ever see someone in a bad mood, no matter what they do, it's going to come through. You're going to see them in a bad mood. I think the same is true for when you are painting. If you have a certain emotion or you're trying to say something, just make sure you keep that in mind when you're working. It'll come through pretty successfully. So this is my first live stream of a painting session. And if you haven't fallen asleep yet, welcome. And who has a question? Oh, okay. Hey, Patty, how you doing? Patty's my cousin, very beautiful lady. We went to go see Tom Petty together. Remember that? That was pretty cool. And I had so much fun. So, I don't know. I think Patty is... I used to ride the subways in high school and then college and art school. And whenever I watch someone by themselves, they're never like really happy or smiling unless they're crazy. On their own. And people usually get pretty somber when they're in those moments that you know, of solitude. Not necessarily sad, just contemplative. I guess I always was struck by that. Even the most outgoing person, I think, is pretty quiet and to themselves. So it's good to see you, Patty. I did. It was a Buick Regal, and I still feel bad. I think that's the one bad thing I did in childhood. I was a goody two shoes otherwise. Denise, how's the audio looking? Is it smooth or is it jumpy? Is it always smooth or is it okay? Okay. And just as you can see, I'm just very slowly getting darker. And she's starting to come together. She's starting to be as pretty as she is. I know in the early stages it looks like, oh my God, what am I doing? But you know, I find that patience and stick-to-itiveness are both very crucial. Without those two things, we're in big trouble. Oops, I'm sorry. I have the compressor going off. It's like I think it's like an 8-pound compressor, so it doesn't go off too often. What was that? Oh, thank you, Patty. I appreciate that. I really do. And it's not easy. Not easy being broke, but I'm just gonna, just gonna keep doing it. And hopefully it'll pay off one day. Thanks so much, Patty. Patty's my cool cousin. She always was. Oh, yes. It's not too bad with the compressor. It's a lot lower. The one I had before was like 50, 60 decibels. Yeah, I wasn't very popular. How many people are on there? Ten people? Oh, wow. But they fell off? Okay. All right. So as you can see, I'm just staying darker, just getting darker and darker. Like I said, no rush. It's not a race. Just make it beautiful. You can see how beautiful I can get those nice details with this airbrush. And I'm going to scratch in the lights. So I'm not worried about worrying about the highlights at this point. I don't think there's a reason to do that. I just want the shape of the hair. And for me, I don't want to get too worked up like into the tight details. I want the painting to have a feeling of a Vermeer or a Diego Velázquez. I don't want it to be a reproduction of a photograph. And that's my idea of, my training, at the National Academy School of Fine Arts, the Art Students League, the High School of Art and Design. I studied with Daniel Chard at what then was Glassboro State College. And I sought out these artists. Ron Scher, I sought out these artists because I felt they had an emotion to their painting, yet it was still representational. So I'm into accuracy, yes. Accuracy of value, accuracy of color, and drawing is everything. I love the quote by one of my all-time favorite painters, Jean-Auguste Doni Gangres. And if you guys know of his work, let me know what you think of his work. But he said that a good painting is 85% drawing. You guys feel that way? Because I definitely do. I know if you have a bad drawing, and I don't care how beautiful the paint is, how you applied it, the values, it's still going to be disastrous. Can't save a bad drawing, but you can save bad color with good drawing, that's for sure. You ever see monochromatic paintings? That's exactly what that is. So I believe what Angres says, that painting is 85% drawing. He calls it the probity of art. Very wise guy. Wise artist, I should say. I love his work. When I studied in the early days what was happening in New York City in the representational art world was a lot of alla prima. In high school, studying with Greenberg and Ginsberg, they taught alla prima, which was sort of a one-time, sort of like John Singer Sargent, where very little drawing, you draw with the paintbrush, and then you just go immediately in with progressively thicker paint. And, hey, I love that. Who am I to say I don't like the work of Velázquez and Rembrandt? This stuff is amazing. It's just great. But I was pretty much under the assumption when I was studying that that was the only way to do it, because I wasn't taught any other way. When I wanted to draw, it pretty much was, nope, I want you to go in with the number 2 filbert brush and just get right in there. But that wasn't my sensibilities. It's not my sensibilities today. I don't know. I need that pencil point. I need that control. I need to feel like, I am really getting in there and not missing anything. I want to be exact in the contours, because I really do love the contours. Oh yeah, all the time. I work from photographs. I used to work from live models, but that's asking too much, because it would probably take about maybe a month of them posing every day for like 3 hours, and they'll never talk to me again. So I want my models to come back. So right now I have some really nice professional camera equipment. I use a Nikon D80 and with a 50mm lens, and I also just purchased the Rebel T5i, which I really love in my latest pose with Angela, my model for Persephone. She just posed for Persephone in winter, which I'm very excited about. I took about 200 photos of her, and from those 200 photos I was able to find one that I like. and that's what I'm going to use. The photo session usually takes about 3 hours, and I'm getting better and better. I'm not a photographer by any means, but I'm learning to take really good photos with my camera for reference. I also recommend that artists take their own photographs. It's so important, as opposed to, sometimes you have to, right? I mean, who am I? Sometimes, you don't have the reference photos you want to work. So yeah, that's great. I mean, it's important to, do reference photos and everything like that, celebrities. It's a good way to practice your craft. But as far as creating fine art, I think it's important to work out your concepts. You have to work out your concepts, and you have to get the pose exactly. If you're a director of a film, so to speak, are you able to just get bits and pieces of other films to say what you want to say? I don't think so. You gotta create your own film. So I really highly recommend, actually I implore you, if you don't take photographs for your paintings, I want you to start. People are really nice. Family, friends, they'll pose for you. And you could even use yourself. A lot of self-portraits. That's what Rembrandt did when he had no models and he was poor. That's why he did all those self-portraits. They were really just practice pieces. They weren't really considered fine art. He was pretty much the proponent of self-portrait, just for the sake of a self-portrait. I think Caravaggio did one where he was Bacchus. So he used himself for a mythological painting. So yeah, definitely. You can get lighting. You could get some books at the library. There's this one guy, A.N.G. is his last name. He has some incredible books on photography. And you can even use your cell phone these days. The cell phones are much better than, let me see, if I run out of paint? No, ink, so I'm good. The cell phones actually are better than the cameras were 10 years ago. But if you can get your hands on, let's say, if you don't want to go with an SLR, which I really recommend, but if you get your hands on a Canon ELPH, that would be really great. Something like at least a 10 megapixel or more. And get yourself a spotlight that you can maybe hang from the ceiling. Make sure the flash isn't on. Start playing with the model. Let me take that back. Start playing with the lighting. And this way, you'll be able to know how to play with light. I mean, really, are we painting a person? I don't think so. Yes, we are. But we are painting the light and what it does when it hits different parts of the form. If you see here, let me see if I could do if you see here with the mouse, see how the light is hitting this hair, how it's bouncing, it's sort of doing something here. Also, let's say right over here, I'll use my hand. See how it is how it bounces off the tip of her nose because it's smoother than here. This is very similar to the way light looks when it's bouncing off of a lake, the sun. And here is, you'll see that it is sort of shinier, and because it's smooth. But then we go over here where it's even more smooth than that, and the light is actually more hard-edged.
We have more questions.
Oh, sure. What's some of the questions?
Peter Conley wants to know if you can see his comments.
No, I can't see them, but Denise is helping me, my girlfriend.
Okay, he says, one of the things he says
Hey, Peter, it's always a pleasure talking to you over the years. I love your energy and your work. Your work is imaginative, and it pushes me to have more guts in my work. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I love it. Uh, Now, as far as the ink, I'm using Higgins waterproof ink, India ink, black India ink, and I mix it with water, of course. For the early going, I mix these eyedroppers with eyedroppers with drops of ink. And one of them here, I have this little list here. For the beginning, I'll use 3 full eyedroppers of water to every 2 drops of ink. And that gives me a very light wash. As I get a little further, I'll go with 3 full eyedroppers of water and 4 drops of ink. Then when I go dark, which I'm going to in just a little bit, I use 3 full eyedroppers of water and 8 drops of ink. So I use that proportion, and I pretty much work that out. That's going to be in my book, because I'll tell you some of the great things about why use this method. First, I go in with pencil, and then after the pencil, I'll go in with the India ink. What's really cool, and I'll show you, is that after you put the India ink, for some reason the pencil comes forward. If I went over this with acrylic, the pencil would be locked underneath, and forever you would see pencil marks. So I'm able to just go ahead and erase the pencil. And what's left is a really clean black and white underpainting where I could really get in there and do some perfect, clean acrylic. And I use golden fluid acrylics, and I water them down to the consistency of skim milk. In the beginning, even thinner. I like using the Airbrush medium, and then to get it to a consistency of skim milk, and then when I want to get it thinner for the thin washes in the beginning, I use their transparent Airbrush transparent extender. So this stuff is really great. The reason why you want to use that as opposed to water, because when you thin out acrylics with too much with water, it separates. The pigment separates. And what happens is it doesn't adhere to the painting surface. So that's why you want to make sure you are using more of the mediums than water. I always talk to the guys, the chemists, and the young lady at Golden, and they always give me information as to what's the best way to mix golden paints. How do you make sure you maintain high saturation of color even though you're thinning it down? So that's a challenge, especially with acrylic. I found with other brands, what was that other brand? It's made by Iwata. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Oh yeah, ComArt. I'm not too crazy about ComArt. I mean, there's several reasons I have a problem with ComArt paints. Number one, there aren't any mediums for it. And if there are, I don't know what's in it. Number two, no one knows how these paints are actually going to last. Are they as light fast as they are? They should be. What's going to happen 15, 20 years down the line? Now, the chemists at Golden, they compensate for this. They know what the paint's going to do. They know how to start an acrylic painting. Like, okay, so I'm going to be working in acrylic, right? I have this board, and I use acrylic gesso, waterproof acrylic gesso. I also mix some marble dust with it. And the reason I mix the marble dust with it is that it has this really nice texture, almost like a bone. So I have the acrylic. Acrylic and acrylic are going to stick together. So I have that going for me. Also, I have this porous texture. So the acrylic's going to have something to dig into. And sort of like this, right? If you have smooth and smooth, it can move around. Coarse and coarse, it becomes like this. So my paintings are going to last because the thought process is there. The thought process of I want to make paintings that are going to be here 400 years from now. Okay, I'm not going to be here 400 years from now, so my paintings might as well be, right? So that's my thinking. Thank God we had Rembrandt think about that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be enjoying his work. I'm not saying I'm Rembrandt, but we have to think about these things that we're painting, hopefully for people who may enjoy it in what is it, 2120 or something like that. So yeah, good question. So that's why I use Golden. What's great about Golden is that you can actually give them a call. You go to, I think, goldenpaints.com. There's a 1-800 number. They're like great guys. They'll actually go ahead and talk to you and let you know about the best varnish to use when you varnish the painting, which I really needed help for because I was new to varnishing. For the painting, the first acrylic airbrush painting I ever exhibited, I exhibited in New York this November, and so I went ahead and varnished it, and I really enjoyed it. It was the painting called Ponder, and that was, one of my favorite airbrush paintings from a couple of years back. I was petrified. I didn't know whether or not I was going to destroy it, especially when you first put the varnish on. It's like clear here and it's like shiny there, and then but you let it dry, and then you do the second, and it really made it uniform. And the guys at Golden, and the young lady, they really gave me peace of mind. Say, don't worry, and there's some videos on YouTube, and so. Yeah, definitely. If you ever want to use them, just drop me a line. I'll definitely send you to your inbox, Peter. Any information you need from Golden, be my pleasure.
What type of board do you use? And he also says don't down yourself when you're up there.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it. Really, I do. I use these hardboards, and you can get them at Dick Blick. You see, they're hardboard panels. They're really inexpensive. You'd be surprised. I think they're like $2 for, maybe even $1.80 for an 11 by 14, which is a great size to work on. I get a lot of 6 by 6s. They're like 80 cents. Really great. And I really, once you start working on hardboard, you can do anything. I could scratch this with a razor blade. I can use sandpaper. I could really go to town with this and not worry about whether or not it's going to rip. A lot of airbrush artists use illustration board. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? However, there was one painting I was doing, and it was coming out really amazing, and I was so happy with it. So, like us airbrush artists, we use that Frisket film. So I was working with the Frisket film, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when I was pulling it off, it pulled up the illustration board with it. Wow. And I was so happy with the painting. It was like a real horrible moment. And at that point, I was able to fix it with going in with the gesso and actually filling in some of the torn areas and then painting in there with it. But I really realized that that's too flimsy a surface. It's really not conducive to creating, to have that flexibility. And I don't know, I want that flexibility with everything I'm using and working with. I don't want anything so delicate. And then what is illustration board? It's this board that's on cardboard. I don't know if that's going to last 100 years from now. I don't know if that's really what you want to do for guys for serious art. I mean, all our art's serious, so do it on board. I mean, there are boards from 1400s, 1300s artists working on wood, and they're still as vibrant and strong and adhering to the surface as today. I'm going to show you real quick the gesso I use. This will help you out, Peter. I'm just going to detach myself from the mic for a moment. All right, I'm back, and I'm just going to show you the Blick Professional White Gesso. This is waterproof. It's crucial that it's waterproof when you put this on the surface, because if it's not waterproof, it's going to come back to haunt you when you paint on it. That means, like watercolor, if it's not waterproof, it's going to start to mix again. So being waterproof, you don't have that problem. And so you want to mix that with the marble dust. And there's some videos on YouTube you can check out. It has my exact formula, the recipe that I have. And I got that recipe, which I tweaked a little bit, from Harvey Dinnerstein, because with this surface you can actually do pastel on it, you can do watercolor with it. It's really great. And let's say if you want a rougher surface, you can go ahead and do rougher, more. You can actually do more of a textured surface. You could actually use less marble dust and you can have a smooth surface. What I really love about this is that I could midstream go in with pastel. I don't, but if you wanted to, you could. What I do with pastel sometimes is I'll actually do the underpainting, like a very light underpainting in Airbrush, not just with this here, but also start off the color and then go in with pastel. And I like doing that technique a lot. And I really hope you guys are getting something from this. And if you want me to continue, please let me know, each week. So basically, I want to open up my studio to you guys. And hopefully I could share some of my knowledge. You guys could share your knowledge with me. And please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it, because I want to make a lot of these. I want to be consistent. I see a lot of artists out there and they're doing some great things. But when I was looking at the YouTube artists, and I was like, there's something that I can bring to the table and help people out too. And that's basically my thinking, my philosophy on why I'm doing this. A lot of artists will say, a lot of fellow artists, why are you giving it away? Why are you giving it away? Well, I'm sharing it. And hopefully, after a while, the people I share with will help support some of my ventures, such as my book and maybe full-length videos. And so I know if I give first, I'll get. So that's my thinking, And so I know if I give worth, people will give that back eventually. And so this is basically my underpainting. I'm not going to do too much more because it's just an underpainting. You want to leave room for a little wiggle room for some modifications in the color, but you do want to have a good structure. Like a building, when I watch them go up all the time, I work in Jersey City for Amazon, and around me by the waterfront, lots of money going on over there, in Exchange Place, and there's buildings going up all the time. And in the beginning, there's the structure, the girders, the brickwork, and then comes the rest. And then what color the building is going to be, all of that. So how many windows. So that's how I feel when I look at them. It's like that's where I want my paintings to be. I want them to have this structure. So underneath, this will be there. No matter how detailed, no matter how razor sharp my focus is in the end result, it's going to have this underlying structure. So that's my thinking. And also, remember I said that alla prima method. So I went to Long Island University and I studied art history with Robert Skinner, who was an amazing historian. And when he had shown me the work of Ingres and David and, Vermeer, oh my God, it was like, I think this was in 1986, 85, 86. And it just blew my mind. For the first time, I was looking at how important drawing was and how they did these preparatory studies and over again, and then they did these really detailed drawings on the canvas or the board. And then they did what is called a grisaille, which is a gray underpainting, very much like this. And then went over with color with these really thin glazes. And I was just so excited that I wasn't wrong. It was just my way of doing it. And it was great. But going back to learning that alla prima method, it really does help me at times, of course, because I know that if I ever need to, let's say I'm working on a background like I did the Persephone in summer, and I was able to do paint some of those leaves in that very alla prima method. So nothing that you learn in painting is for nothing. You will use that down the line. And I'm very thankful to all my teachers, all the artists who took time to teach this skinny kid, not skinny anymore, but this skinny kid how to paint and draw. And I hope that I'm able to do that for you guys tonight. And okay, so this video also is going to be on YouTube. I'm going to transfer it over to YouTube so you guys can look at it. And that will give you an opportunity to subscribe to my channel. So, those of you who probably see this tomorrow, you can look at this on YouTube. I'll have a new video doing the step-by-step of this painting. And then hopefully on Sunday I'll have even yet another video. Then next Wednesday, 9 o'clock, I'll be here for an hour again, God willing. And then we could go ahead and see where we are in this painting. And who knows, maybe during the week I might do some quick live streaming. Maybe you guys have some questions about live streaming. I'd be happy to answer those as well. Oh, hey, Denise, how you doing? Denise used to work with me back at Nextel. She's really cool. I really had fun working with you, Denise, and I miss you. So, Denise, I wouldn't say right now, but drop me an email or IM me and the picture that you would like, and then we could talk and see, if you were wanting a painting or a portrait. And I'll be happy to work with you. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll be looking forward to that IM when you get a chance. And, the picture, what it is, what size you want, what do you want full color, do you want drawing? And, of course, you're an old friend, so I definitely can't just say at a rate I would give you. It would definitely be a special rate, that's for sure. And let's see. Okay, and so let me say goodbye to you guys. I'm just gonna move my web camera over here so you can see my funny looking face. Let's see. Okay, there we go. We'll look at how it's coming. Not bad. I mean, it's only the underpainting, but still. And okay, so I'm going to put this on my camera, on my computer. And let's see. Okay. All right, guys. So, okay, bad hair day. So what are we going to do? But cool. So I had fun showing you my working method for the underpainting. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed your questions, and thank you so much for stopping by. I'm going to do this every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, and I see Denise way back there. Thanks, Denise, sweetie, for monitoring for me. And also, I will have every week, I'll have a YouTube video. So do me a favor. Subscribe on YouTube. I need subscribers, okay? And I need comments because more subscribers mean more attention. So I could do more of this. So I just want to say thanks again for everything, you guys. And I hope you guys stay inspired. Take care. Bye-bye.